Good morning. I would like to call the Facility Committee meeting to order. We're a few minutes late, but we just got done with a very exciting Budget Committee meeting. Learned a lot of new interesting facts. So I hope that the three boards of the committee are here as well as administration as needed. And with that, I need approval of the agenda. Seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. I've received no public comments. No. So we will move on to our new middle school and the information update on that, just the contingency tracker. Steve, are you?
Yeah, thank you, Joan. I'm going to bring this contingency tracker up first. Just as a reminder, the columns that we're looking at, there's a CM or construction manager contingency and an owner contingency, and we continue to track at all of our regular meetings with the BOE team anything that occurs with either of these columns. I just want to show you the bottom line. We are going to talk about this item, the site fence, but we put this in so you're able to see how it fits in the big picture, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. And then the other is gym equipment, the maintenance shed, and then the site stormwater. So with those items, what we call the owner's contingency would be tapped out. Now, the main reason why that's the case, just want to remind everybody right back here, we placed $1.1 million to meet the requirements of the Inflation Reduction Act in the owner contingency column, which will generate a significant rebate back to the district. So I just want to remind you that we put that there a few months ago. Going back down to here, these are of the dollar amount that it will require full board action next Monday night if we decide to move ahead in this direction. So there's funds available in the owner's column, and then there's funds available in the construction manager column. And just keep your eye on this number here, the $3 million. We're going to come back and talk about that in a little bit under the next agenda item on maintenance tracking. But for now, this is the most recent contingency log. We do provide that to the committee on a consistent basis so you can see what's going on with the construction of the property. Any questions on this log before I go back to the change order discussion?
What's the timing on the rebate? We finish a project out in minutes.
Yeah, so with Heritage. So Heritage was placed in service on September 1st of 24, thank you, Jay. So we were able to apply for Heritage in January of 25. So we have already completed that process. Allie's been managing that. And we just reached out yesterday to our partner Wifley, who's handling the IRS paperwork, to ask them what the timing of that would be. But Heritage, that process is hopefully nearing completion or will be soon. So for the middle school, opening September 1st to 26, when we get to January of 27, we would be able to begin that process as well. So probably in the spring of 27 is what I think we would be able to plan on for those funds coming in. All right, so Rebecca, would you mind grabbing back and going back to the last agenda item, please? Okay, and then I want to start with the fence. So Jay's here to help talk this through. As you know, Adam was here at the last meeting. Adam's on vacation right now, so appreciate Jay stepping in and being here to answer any questions for us today. Obviously, Jay has the history of the budget for the school, what was included, what wasn't. After the last facility committee meeting, we wanted to break down the fence into different colors, and so we could have a conversation with you about what may or may not make sense. We also, John, Dustin, our safety and security coordinator, and myself walked this fence to just get a visual of like what should we be proposing to you and what would make sense. This purple area where I've got the mouse, there's literally a 10-foot retaining wall there. Like, I have to look up. Like, nobody is coming across here and scaling that thing to try to come onto the property. Like, it's just important to note that a fence here honestly does very little when you actually go walk that property. And the fence that's there, there's no reason to take it down. It's just another barrier that exists. We believe the purple could just be left alone. Now, it's not a pretty situation. The fence has grown into the woods. The woods is by the creek, but it's a barrier. It's a barrier that exists. It's been there forever. We don't think it makes sense to spend money to take it down. And unless the board really wants to do this entire property with a brand new fence, I think we just would leave it. So our thoughts are this whole purple area, which was $52,000, we would just leave. And again, if any board member wants to visualize that, you could go to the construction trailer. They'd be happy to run you over there on the gator and let you look at it. But when you're over there and you see that retaining wall, you just realize no one is coming that way. Especially when you can just literally walk along the sidewalk and come in the front of the school. I can't imagine a scenario where anybody would want to do that. Okay, so back here in the blue, there is a fence that separates the track area from this retainage pond. That fence as well is basically part of the landscape. If you go back there, it's almost like it's just there grown into the woods. And again, I can't imagine anybody going down this slope, seeing that tree line and seeing that fence. So our thought is, again, why take it down? Just leave it. So if we leave these two portions of the fence, I mean, we're at 75,000 of the 111,000 to do the property. Now, when you get here, this is I'll call it a shared fence between the district and St. John's. This is unsightly. And merit to doing this, which we're happy to discuss with you, but after the last facility committee meeting, we appreciate feedback. We went out there, took a look at it. I personally do not feel like the blue or the purple needs to be done. I would leave it. I mean, the board something there, but I don't see the need. I wouldn't tear it down, I would just leave it. It's been sitting there for a very, very long time.
It's all chain link.
It's all chain, yeah. But I will say the orange in the red it's not a good situation. It's very public, it's very visible. It's dated. I mean, could it be left there? Sure. I mean, I did the tour with elementary students. Like, it is so noticeable. Like, when you look out from the school, it's rusted in some parts beyond. I mean, it's really bad. So, if you want the property to look better, the red would be ideal for replacement. you can't even really see the purple and the blue. Like you'd have to go down there and you'd have to start moving moving brush to like even try to find where that fence is.
And the fence is needed? We determine it's like absolutely needed?
Is it needed?
For the ones that
I
you're
see what
talking
you're
about there.
saying.
I mean, we could take it down and why I have it there. That's
I mean, it could be taken down. That's the other option. I can't think of a scenario as to why that purple fence would be needed with that retaining wall that's there. I mean, you have to go through the creek, you have to go through the woods, and you have to scale a 10-foot retaining wall. Like if you really want to go that way. Like I don't even understand why anybody would want to go that way.
And I'm thinking more of the part that is visible, that is that a requirement from the other property, our property, is it at all? It's there now, and I don't know.
In terms of the St. John's Cemetery
Correct.
is there, so.
Correct. What's that?
The St. John's Cemetery is there, so
Yep.
that piece, I'm sure the village would be very happy if they had something there.
The village would be happy if that's something.
We're not sure of the ownership, I'm not sure of the ownership of the piece of the cemetery fence.
Yeah, it's so, the history is so dated, it's without surveying. Nobody really knows, and you can't tell by looking at like property dimensions on it. We just know it doesn't look good either way. But to your point, Ted, could the purple be pulled down? Absolutely. I mean, we'd have to ask Vogel to get a quote on tearing it down instead of replacing it, which we can do.
Which we have that already.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so to tear the purple down is
orange.
Yeah, I'm not.
More about the
I
orange.
kind of
red and
agree
orange
with
is what
you. I don't. I'm just thinking of. Yeah, absolutely. If it's not, if it's unsightly, great. It should be replaced. If it needs to be replaced, if it doesn't, why have it? That's what I'm. And there's plenty of other. I don't know that's a requirement to have any fence off of the cemetery. Even at the cemetery, I'm all over. So I just was curious as to.
The one thing we probably have to double check with the village, because the plans were submitted with the note saying existing fence to stay.
Okay.
I don't know that they looked at that.
Sure.
So it may not be an issue, but if you wanted to remove the red and the orange and not put anything back, I think we should at least.
I would just like to know if it is needed. If it's not, we can look at it. I pull one back up. That do we feel it's needed for something?
Has there been any conversation with St. John's about that? About whether it's needed?
I have not directly spoken with Kaylee about the fence at St. John's yet, so sure they can do it.
My only concern would be the proximity between, so as Steve and I were over with the kids, the second graders, we were up on the second and looking down. I would be concerned just about the proximity and supervision of students. All it takes is one kid, as we well know, who, might decide to run over into, the cemetery. I just think from a supervisory standpoint, to have that barrier there would be in the orange and the red tag, not the other
Yep.
things. I think that would just give parents and our administrators just peace of mind to know that's there. So there is no chance that a student could, you run into the cemetery, you won't get hurt or anything. I think that, and I asked Steve, have we had any issues with, since the fence has been there, seems like it has been a protective barrier where we haven't had any concerns, even with the old heritage when it was sitting there. So that would be my thoughts around just the orange and red piece. And if you drive over there, the fence is unsightly. So I would also add from the standpoint of a brand new middle school to have that old fence there, it's just not a good look. So I
would agree with all that. I wouldn't want to keep that fence up.
Yeah.
We have a different demographic here that's going there. They're middle school kids now. They're not going out for recess that need supervision. Is that correct? I don't think middle school, there's any recess now. I forget.
Lunch, yeah, they're out there.
Lunchtime, they can go out at lunch. Okay.
So what we can do, because again, there's no need to like decide this today. So what we can do is we can get St. John's feedback on the orange and the red. We can also reach out to the village, that was a good point, and get the village's feedback on, you know, what their perspective was on the plan. Adam is off right now, but we can ask Adam when he comes back to pick up the conversation. Sounds like you've got prices for both taking it down and putting it, you know. So it looks like we're in good shape with like having numbers. And I think we're making progress on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I think we just bring this back to a future meeting. I don't think we need to decide anything right now unless there's
I mean, I'm in agreement with what you're saying on the blue and purple, you know,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be in agreement of getting rid of the old ones, just do we replace it, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm in agreement on the blue and purple. I see kind of a need for the fence on the other one for the St. John's use of that space. And, you know, the respect of keeping kids out of the cemetery, just as a, you know, a constituent of the village, I just think it's respectful to have that barrier. But I agree with Carly, I think we need to have a conversation with St. John's and make sure, because it would almost be, we're replacing it, but it might even be their fence, we just don't know. It's absolutely a good will neighborly thing to do to replace it after all the construction we've done in their backyard. So I just think we need that conversation.
Okay, so we will continue working on this, so thanks for your feedback. Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind bouncing back. So the first one, the site changes, shed and athletic equipment, would you mind, I can open that one up, Rebecca. So Jeff Keenest was here at the last meeting to talk through this with the committee last month. We didn't recall any questions surrounding you know, concerns about, you know, doing it or not doing it. And what we had talked about was the track is being resurfaced, and in the middle school track program has the ability to actually utilize this site for practice now as opposed to using the high school site. And because it's being resurfaced and because it could be used for practice, the idea was, well, then let's get this facility ready to do all of the type of practicing that a middle school track program would do, so that they only need to use the high school for meets. There was discussion about, you know, could the track be turned, and we talked about how that will then affect the other fields and the other programs that use the property. This has been all vetted through Vogel and Epstein Ewan and Roxanne Johnson, who's our local civil engineer. We talked about the shed, so up here would be a shed that would be used for both maintenance purposes and storage of track equipment. And back on the maintenance tracker, you saw on the construction management side, you saw the fence, which we're holding on. And then on the district side, you saw the shed, you saw the water drainage that would need to be done, and then you saw the track and field equipment. So to set this up, basically the way you see that, Jeff Keenest has worked with Nick Conrad to make sure that we have everything we would need here to be able to successfully practice track at the middle school. I do know the middle school administration is in support of keeping the track program at the middle school with the resurfaced track for practicing, and this would allow us to do that. The alternative is, of course, what we're currently doing, which is the middle school practices at the high school. So this is just another alternative option. Given we've been able to resurface the track, it made sense for us to explore the full use of this space for middle school students. Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just maybe, you know, the size of that shed is 20 by 40, I think it's over 10 feet tall. And then if you notice, By that high jump area, there is actually some new asphalt and track surfacing that would happen for that high jump area if you were to go forward with it. That's that gray section around the high jump.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense to make it useful. If we're going to go through the expense of resurfacing and having our kids practice there, we need to have the equipment and storage for them to fly
And you feel this, the size of the shed's adequate for what we're looking
That's
at?
about as big as we can
Big as
twist
we
our
can.
arms to get there. That area, just the
Where the foot location would fit in it.
So kind of board approved this on Monday night because when you add up, it's higher. The dollar amount's too high for the facility committee to approve it.
Sure.
So
So if there's a motion to move this to the board, I would put that now.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind jumping back to the agenda, please. All right, so the next part we're going to talk about is the capital maintenance projects. But before I get into the request this month, I do want to talk about this document. So this document is going to have a very important role in the August board workshop. So the reason why this document is going to have a very important role in the board workshop is we will be talking about the state budget, what the implications of the state budget are for both spendable revenues for schools as well as the local property tax levy. Note here, you see this figure, 2.5 million currently unspent dollars in the maintenance space. When you go down to the very bottom, does this version not have the... Oh, so this version has approved through the last board meeting. At the retreat, what I will do is I will show our forecast that I have on the bottom of this document through the completion of the project. And that has funds that we had set aside for possible 25-26 scenarios that could be looked at through different approaches. One of those approaches would be funds in a referendum accounts can actually be used to lower the tax levy. So one of the things that we could consider is lowering the tax levy by utilizing some of these project savings to give back to the community through a lower property tax levy. And when I talk about that, up here at the top, Rebecca, could you grab it over to the right a little bit for me? Thank you. If you see this number, this one right here, this $6.8 million is the interest that has been earned since the start of this project. We are already returning, thank you Jay for giving that to me, the bottom of the spreadsheet shows 1.7 million is going back into the financial plan to smooth out the tax levy in Fund 39 to be 3% for the next 20 years. But there's additional funds that are available for the board to discuss that could be helpful in planning out the next several years, especially as we're looking at the property tax levy. There's certainly an argument that could be made that interest savings could be provided back to our local property taxpayers as a way to lower the tax levy that's coming out of the state budget. We'd like to have that conversation with the entire board at the workshop. So just note that this document is going to be a part of what we want to really spend some time talking through. next month, because we still do have quite a bit of flexibility. You also know that previously to me bringing this up, there was the middle school, and you remember the construction manager contingency shows $3 million at the bottom of that one. There's also funds at Heritage that we've not spent. We remain in a very good financial position related to this referendum, which puts the board in a position to be able to have a conversation about utilizing some of these funds to reduce the tax levy. When I mentioned 12 of 16 Dane County districts in the budget committee have seen a loss of state equalization aid, not many of them are going to be able to have the conversations that we're going to be able to have because we have flexibility here. Thankfully we do, and we can have that conversation. But I just want to make everyone aware that this document is one that we're going to be bringing back and spending some time on next month as far as one of the possible options to lower the property tax levy coming through the state budget process. So Rebecca, you want to bounce out of this one for a moment? And then back to requests for this month. We are working to bring small requests that are coming up on a monthly basis. As you know, Dr. Brown has proposed a new schedule for committees for 25-26. The facility committee is not going to be meeting on a monthly basis anymore. So we're going to be bringing fewer lists to you, and we're working to minimize the number of items that we're bringing forward. With that being said and done, John and his team, as they've continued to work between last month and this month, I would say about 10 smaller items have come up between last month and this month that we're requesting consideration of. They total up to 48,000. John could absolutely talk about them, but as an example, this bottom one, this is a topic that's come up at Heritage regarding the playground. There's a communication board that is actually impacting instruction going on in the building due to the location of what's there currently for the playground. So the principal of the school has worked with Dr. Brown on coming up with a solution. So you see that here. And then there's a few other items that I know John could discuss as well. But basically, here's the list of items that we're requesting consideration on for this month. John, was there anything you wanted to call anybody's attention to?
Yeah, I don't think so, unless anybody has questions on any item.
I just have a question on what it is, gates in the bathroom.
Say it again? Oh, gates in
the
bathroom.
bathroom.
So the field house bathrooms are so large
Yep, they are.
that when the school is off hours and one or two students use random stalls, the custodians have to clean all 20 stalls or look at all 20 stalls. And and working with Mr. Borowski, in order to reduce the traffic in the restrooms, even during the school day, Mr. Borowski and I have worked together to basically cut those bathrooms in half. And that's what these gates would do. It would simply be an accordion gate across half of the bathroom, so that during large events, fieldhouse events, graduation, the restroom can be fully utilized, but during the school day or after school hours, it can be reduced in size to cut the amount of students having access to the entire restroom, and then the cleaning side of it as well.
So it's a manual situation, the custodian's gonna have to partition it off if there's an activity or an event. I mean, so it's constantly being monitored that way, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
is there a situation where it would be partitioned off and then perhaps we need access to it and we can't, you know?
No, Mr. Borowski's team and our team would
Okay.
be able to open and close it.
Any other questions on the list?
So is that really 2 bathrooms and 2 partitions? Is that?
So each restroom is a circle.
Yeah, right.
So we'd have to have 2 gates in each restroom. And that would allow access to sinks and commodes and urinals completely. If it were closed, it would still provide complete access.
Any other questions? If not.
Motion to approve, move this to the full board?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think that's the end of our meeting.
The committee is not slated to meet in August, so unless something comes up at the middle school site, we will bring back the fence and any other issues on Dr. Brown's schedule for 25-26. I just don't remember when the next meeting of this one falls on the schedule. I just know it's
There's
not
always,
August.
there's always an option if we need to bring something back prior to, that we would make that happen.
For the first week in September.
First week in September.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Rebecca.
Okay. So, I need a
Motion to
motion.
adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.